Hello and welcome to the Galactic Oasis Unfiltered. I'm Bridget,
I'm Nikki.
Lisa here.
and we are all signing on today to have a conversation around resources. And buckle up, Buttercup, because this one's going to get bouncy. The nervous system is such a hot topic nowadays, but let's just really dial it down to resourcing, how to remain resourced, especially in times of great turbulence, and what some of the implications of being under resourced might be. So, the reason this topic came up is because we were talking about that as business owners and proprietors of the Galactic Oasis. We have a responsibility to ourselves, to the space, to our lives, and the community, and how to juggle that, right? And we're right on the cusp of this Libra full moon, which is all about balance. And what's the hardest part about balance? Maintenance,
hmm
maintaining balance, right? Have any of you ever been on like a balance board or like those what are they called? Like
Yeah,
the yeah,
a
you know what I'm
teeter
talking about?
totter.
Yeah,
hmm
it's very, very hard to maintain that equilibrium. And so, it brings up the question around resourcing and what helps to keep us resourced so that we can be present, we can show up, we can be of support, right? We can hold space. Holding space requires resources. It's not just oh yeah, that would be nice, I'm thinking about you. No, holding space requires a lot of resources. So that was the catalyst for this conversation. But yeah, where do you want to go? How do you want to approach it, you guys?
Um, I don't know, like just thinking about, how do we each approach um, maintaining, doing our best to maintain that balance and be resourced. And, how does it feel when you notice that you're not resourced? Like what do you start to, you know, like I think for me, like I get irritable, when I'm not resourced, when it's like, okay, here's another fucking thing and I don't have time for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not just like an overarching, right? It's not like, oh, I did all of this and now I'm under resourced. I mean, it can happen minute to minute,
hmm
right?
hmm
Being dysregulated or under resourced for something, and I think about like the other day, I get a text message and it's my child just either broke or acutely sprained their ankle. And all I
Oh,
got was a picture of this massive foot that was black and blue. And I'm like, I'm not resourced for this, right? Like, what just happened? I have like 1,000 questions. And where are you? Are you at the hospital? Is everything okay? Did you walk there? Did you drive there? Is it your driving foot? I can't tell because, is it like which way is the big toe going? It was crazy, but I wasn't ready for that. And I think
hmm
that's part of like why resourcing is important because we are getting bombarded with surprise every
hmm
day, every day. And like, how do we respond to that? Right. So you're talking about being grumpy. I know for me, when I'm under resource, I don't want to be bothered.
hmm
I'm not shut down. I'm still very much aware, but I'm also like, don't come to me with a question or a need. Like, I have nothing, you know? I feel very protective when I'm under resourced, I think is how I would describe that.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck off.
Not today. Don't
Uh,
knock on the door.
yeah, yeah. As an extension of that, that reminds me of a skill that I had to learn was to honor where other people are at. And if I don't know where other people are at, that means that's my responsibility to also ask them, hey, are you resourced enough to have a conversation about A,
hmm
B, C, right? Or hey, I'm having a rough day. Are you resourced enough just to hold space? I don't need answers. Or maybe I do. Like maybe I need somebody's input. So I need to ask, are they resourced enough to have a conversation about that? Because maybe all I'm looking for is somebody just to listen to me. But that takes their resources to just listen, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm looking for input, that's another layer, another level of, are you resourced enough to give me feedback on something? Um, and also just like realizing that I am that person that I love information, I love learning, but that means I also love disseminating information. Sometimes people are not resourced enough to hear me go on and on about something. So, it's like both parties or all parties involved need to have some personal accountability and responsibility to speak up for where they're at. Like, hey, I want to be a good friend right now or a good partner, but I need a moment.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or I'll see a slew of like text messages and emails come in, and then I have to triage what am I resourced enough for right now? Like sometimes I don't even have enough energy to read a text message, or sometimes I can read it, but I'm not ready to respond yet. So
Mhm.
then another skill I had to learn is not just honoring where I'm at, but also to still find a little bit of energy to communicate, just tell the other person, hey, I'll circle back around when I have a moment, when I can. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also an indicator, like, I don't really wanna read,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when I'm, like, full. We think of resources as being depleted, but sometimes you can be, like, overly full. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am, like, so full of resources that it needs to go somewhere. I need to empty a little bit in order to, like, keep the movement going.
Mm-hmm.
Stagnation goes both directions. You can be really empty and,
Yeah.
stagnant, or really full and stagnant, like keeping that rhythm. Yeah, I don't want to read. I don't want to listen to things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes even having a conversation. It's like journaling is usually
Yeah.
very helpful with balancing out my resources sometimes. It's like I don't really need, and I like that about the consent because, yes,
Mm-hmm.
non-consensual listening, I'm not a fan of. It's like getting, effed in the ear.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't agree to this. What's happening right now? Like that's not fun. So yeah.
Mm-mm. Hmm.
Yeah. What are
Yeah.
some
No, you
other
have a good
ways?
point about, oh,
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead.
You have
Yeah, go
another
ahead.
point about like what I call it as the oversaturation. Like I'm a
Mhm.
sponge and I can't take in anymore. I'm oversaturated. I need to empty
Mm-hmm.
some stuff out, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that, it's very much like a checks and balances. So I love the metaphor about a car. You can't have a drop of gas in the car and expect it to go across the country.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have overly full gas tank, what's going to happen to the engine? It's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to go, right? It's flooded. So it's like you just thinking about it in those terms, it's like, okay, where's my gas tank right now? Do I have what I need to go the distance? Do I need to pull over and, wash the windows, fill up the tank, kick the tires, like, but needing to do that in between engagements because our
Mm-hmm.
brains are not meant to go from looking at a phone to looking at the computer to grabbing a pen and paper to having a conversation to making a meal to going back to the phone to getting back on the computer to picking up the telephone to sending an email to then take care of the kid, walk the dog, get back on the phone. Our brains are like, oh my god, can somebody please just stare at a wall for a second and like don't do anything?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
That's like that flooded nervous system, like you were talking about with the car, right? Well, now I flooded the engine. And those of us who are older who remember like all the cars before all the electronics, right? When you used to actually have to pump the gas pedal a couple times to you know, get the
Mhm.
fuel air mixture going and the spark
Mhm.
going. But that reminded me of like our nervous system being over flooded, oversaturated. And then that made me think of doom scrolling. And then you started talking about just that, like, oh, the emails and the internet and this and that and the kids and ah. And it's like, yeah, that's why doom scrolling or just being com constantly inundated with input, which is our current state of the world, is so unhealthy for us. Anyway, so many people don't realize why they are exhausted to the point where they are so fatigued they can't take in anymore. And we have a lot of people now that are so overly saturated that they're angry all the time or they're depressed, or there's a lot of emotional and mental health issues that can result from that overstimulated nervous system.
Yeah, and miscommunications, you know? If we're moving too fast and we only half hear what just happened, or we're overly saturated and we're not able to like really take in the magnitude of what is being spoken, you know? Like there's just so many ways that we like are bumping into circumstances and individuals, and like, and it's not, we're not like our most effective.
Mhm.
You know, like I think of when we're really well resourced, you're effective. Communicating clearly, present to what is in front of you, responds like you can respond well, you know, not take things as personally, you know,
Hmm.
don't have a quick, sharp, fuse. That's the word,
Mhm.
fuse, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you think of? Like, you know, the plus and the minus of resourcing.
Hmm.
Um, well, what do you mean, like the um, plus and minus, like being resourced
Mhm. Yeah, or not. Yeah.
or not being resourced? I mean, well, being resourced is great, um, but it's maintaining that resourcefulness. And what are you doing? Like, what does your life look like to enable you to show up to the best of your ability every day and to then navigate those kinds of things, you know? And so a lot of us, it's like we're struggling to be resourced, but then we don't even have the tools to allow ourselves to be resourced. So we're like, it's a, double whammy, right? Like I'm under resourced and I don't even know where to start to try to get some of that back, right?
Yeah, I can feel
So,
too big, like the steps
mm-hmm,
feel
mm-hmm,
like really when we were in Belize, we were at this Maya temple, and the stairs, like the way that they were built, they were like two steps apart. And it was really hard to get up and down those because I'm not used to that spacing. You
mm-hmm,
know, and it was hard, and but the whole point of why they were built that way is because you're supposed to come up on your knees.
mm-hmm,
It's meant to be in reverence, right? So when I think about like, wow, you purposely built a pyramid so that people would be slowing down and coming up in a reverent posture, right? But like, how do we slow down a speeding train, right? Which is how this information age is, right? Everything is accessible within a second,
mm-hmm,
microseconds, you know? So, like, where do you begin? Like, how do you notice, right? We talked about some of the symptoms of like, I'm snippy or I don't want to be bothered,
mm-hmm,
you know, or, um, or you're just like steering away from. But what helps to come back into resource? Right? So you're noticing when you're not resourced, but what are some of the steps that you take to become resourced again? Small, 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 simple, right? What do some of those look like for you guys?
Yeah, I know for myself, it's allowing myself to rest and reset without judgment. And that for me, that was like multiple steps in that process because again, we live in this day and age where rest is not valued. Self is not valued, right? When you're working for other people, especially like for instance, working for the organization that I used to work for, and it wasn't their fault. It wasn't the organization's fault. That's just how business is set up. And even though it was so-called healthcare, well, they don't care about your own health. They have a business to run, albeit, right? That brass tacks, they have to run a business. So doesn't matter if you weren't feeling well, you better show up to work. We don't care that you have sick days. Well, you better be here before your shift and after your shift, and you better be doing all these extra things. And that's what's valued. And if you are part of a paradigm, whether it's a thought paradigm or a physical space or a group of people, doesn't matter what that group is, if that is the value set that you're trying to achieve, then rest is not part of that equation. And so I had a lot of dismantling of my in my own brain and my own nervous system to do. I had to suss out, well, okay, like I'm supposed to be resting and being okay with that. That didn't happen overnight. That was dismantling a lifetime of these expectations that I allowed to be set upon me by various circles of society, right? And so to allow myself to rest was only one piece of that. The next piece for me was to do it with just acceptance, to not do it with any judgment or anger over it. And so that was just, again, that was a process. But another thing that I can do that's in the moment is sometimes just a breathing technique, a breathing exercise, whether it's 4-7-8 or the box technique. There's all different types of breath work that we can do to just help reset the nervous system. And really, it's there's a whole lot of biochemical things going on in our brain, biology, right? So we're getting more oxygen, we're breathing and allowing our nervous system to say it's okay and you can rest, even though I may not be able to have time to lay down and take a nap or even lay down for 5 minutes for a quick reset. If I just do some breathing, and there's different like hand gestures that I do. This is one that you can actually use to reset
Mhm.
your nervous system and your brain with or without a mantra. Just doing this. They've actually incorporated this into Western medicine in a lot of spinal cord injury areas and neurology type care to help people's nervous system calm down and reset the brain, which is really awesome. That they're using things that have been known in other cultures for centuries.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think they call those hand mudras, don't they?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, and I didn't use the context of resourcing, but I started going out, and it would be like for like 2 minutes, I would be outside and I would spend 2 minutes and I would call them life pauses, where I was like
Mhm.
stopping up here, whatever I was doing, thinking, ruminating about, and I would just focus in on one thing out of doors, a pine cone, a water droplet, something that like I would put all of my attention into that. And they were life pauses. And that was me resetting, resourcing, coming back to this moment, or like a hand on the heart and asking, where am I?
Mhm.
Where am I right now? And like that's a instant, whoa, wait, where am I? That's instantly presencing of coming back, but also hydration.
Mhm.
Taking a sip of water is really like that helps to bring you into the moment. And I love those touch points, Lisa. Like I rub my legs all the time. I
Mhm.
rub downwards. It's a very grounding gesture. I move my hands a lot because I remember one time, one of my mentors was talking about like watching people stand like this is not natural because
Mhm.
we're always moving and we hold ourselves in these rigid postures, right? Holding yourself up is depleting. You're working against yourself.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, like when I'm saying like simple, I'm talking like it's really paying attention to how many times throughout the day am I like, you know, contorting myself to be in a posture that my body doesn't want to be in,
Mhm.
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, or
Mhm.
holding my breath. Like I've noticed
Oh
since I
yeah,
was a
that's a big
kid
one.
till even now, like when I notice that I'm holding my breath, I'm like, breathe, Lisa, breathe. Like, why are you holding your breath? And yeah, when I stop breathing, then yeah, I get more rigid and my shoulders start to come up, and yeah, it's tense in the neck, and yeah. And speaking of
Jaw,
like that,
oh,
reminded me,
fighting.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of tension in the jaw.
Mhm.
And when you mentioned the heart, yeah, like coming back into your heart space or just touching over your heart There's also tapping, like on the
Mhm.
collarbones, or even just right in the middle in the sternum. That
Mhm.
helps you come back into your body, embody yourself, be in the present moment, and then just combine that with some breathing. For me, that works.
Mm.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I'm grateful that uh I work from home a lot, so I can just kind of get up and move around. Screaming into a pillow is nice if that's an option, right? Um, but yeah, going outside, getting a drink of water, um, sometimes I mean, I remember, when I didn't work from home, if it was lunchtime, a lot of times, I mean, I would eat, but like just putting my head down, and giving myself like a timeout. I remember when I was a naturalist, we all shared an office. It was, like everybody had, like your desk faced the wall, and we were like all the way around. And you come in there and the lights would be off and there'd be three of us with our heads down. And it's like, what's going on? And it's like, we're having a timeout. Like, I think we have this negative connotation because as a child, it was like, oh, you're going to get a timeout, right? Because you're dysregulated and you're acting out and you need to go have a timeout. Whereas now it's like, no, I want a timeout. Like, give me a timeout. I will go stand in the corner and stare at the wall. Like, let me have a timeout. Um, but
Oh,
yeah, it's like as when we're
yep.
kids, we don't have the language that we're dysregulated. But it's like I mean, certainly, I mean, I think we've all been there when you're out at the store and there's a kid having a tantrum and you're either like really irritated or you're like solidarity kid, like I get it, right? Um, but it's like frowned upon as an adult to be able to do that, and to just have like a freak out. Um, but then also then taking the reins and saying, okay, I'm very dysregulated. So I'm doing things to reset my nervous system in this moment. But then what are you doing carrying forward so that that doesn't keep happening, right? Like if you find yourself like continually getting triggered or dysregulated, yes, you have the tools, but there's a larger conversation that needs to be taken into account because you shouldn't be in that, reset cycle all the time.
It reminds me of a meme, and I'm paraphrasing because it's been a long time since I've seen it, but it was something like, I didn't have a dysregulated nervous system. I realized I needed to quit my job, divorce my husband, and kick my kids out of the house.
Exactly,
Something like that,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
we take for granted, and I want to like take one step back because yes, hell yes to taking personal timeouts. And every time I see a kid flipping out in public, I envy them
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, I wish that I had the ability to just act out whatever's
Mm-hmm.
happening, right? But I would be arrested. Like, you get to
Mm-hmm.
go home to your mom, I would be in jail. But it's not a personal flaw. And I
Mm-mm.
really want to emphasize that. Like, we are talking about regulation and dysregulation, which is part of our wiring. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that you are failing or flawed or dysfunctional in some way. That's not what's happening. It's literally the circuits are like, zzz, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and we're trying to unwind them again so that the electricity goes the right way. Like, that's
Mhm.
really all that it is. And I wish that we could stop making it about like character flaws.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that there aren't character flaws. I'm saying when it comes to the nervous system, it is not a personality issue. It is not an educational issue. It's not like it's so much more complex, and it really does start at inception.
Mhm.
That's when your nervous system's forming. If your environment in the mom's womb has something going on, that programs your nervous system,
Mhm.
and it carries through. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's not as simple as leaving the job, divorcing the guy, putting the kids on timeout, right? Sometimes it's doing incredibly deep therapy with somebody
Mhm.
who's qualified to help you in those early gestational patterns. Sometimes that is what is needed to help get you out of that cycle. because it happened before you even knew it was happening, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So it's important to like just, keep perspective, I think, you know,
Yes.
and laugh at yourself a little bit.
Yes.
I was sharing that I used to have a job. Um, I used to be a professional collector. So pay your bills, everybody. And in the job, I had a habit of talking with my hands and I would go like this and I had no idea that I was doing it. But that's also very calming, right? It's rhythmic. I was probably regulating my nervous system and didn't realize it. So one day something happened and all of the team went, "Danger, Will Robinson, danger." And they,
Oh no.
and they were totally ragging on me. And I didn't even realize that I was doing it. So they had a great laugh. I was irritated because I'm like, what's happening? But yeah, I don't know why I just brought that up, but it made me think about it.
That's great. I'll take that as a segue because, okay, so you didn't realize you were doing that and your coworkers did what they did. When I was at a previous long-term career type job, I had an office and I always kept my door open for the most part. And I had couple assistants that worked in the office next to me. So we worked very closely together because they would help me process some of the things that I had to do for that particular job. I had no idea that my way of regulating my nervous system, which I didn't know until years later, was I would grunt and groan and exhale and make noises. I had no idea I was making all these noises until they started making fun of me lovingly, of course, and I'm like, what? And they're like, you sound like Marge. I'm like, who? They're like, Marge Simpson from The Simpsons. I'm like, oh my God. And so then I was aware of it. They brought awareness to the fact that I was regulating my nervous system in an extremely high pressure, high stress job. And so I didn't stop doing it. I continued to just be me and do those things. And yes, I do talk with my hands, like you were just yeah, so they would call me Marge, I think, for like another
Mhm.
year for that wore off. So I think a lot of times our body already innately knows what it needs to do.
Hmm.
And so what I get excited about is inviting people to lean into what your body's already doing to self-regulate. Because it's great
Hmm.
to go on the internet or read books or whatever, but really we're all individuals. And so what might work for, these 5 people, it might be different for these 7 people, might be different for those other 10. And so it's about just leaning into and finding out what works for you, because chances are you're probably already doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. It's paying attention to I sigh a lot. That's me resetting.
Hmm.
I let out like a deep, right? Yeah. Right? Yeah,
Yep.
it's very,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels
It
good. I
does
like
feel
it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it is. And it's like just setting yourself up for having access to a tool no matter where you are,
Hmm.
so you don't ever feel like, oh no, I left my crystals at home, or, this isn't the right pocket that would have that stone in it or whatever. It's like having the ability to have what you need at all times, no matter what the circumstances are, and like you were showing earlier, Lisa, mudras are very easy. You always have your fingers, hopefully, hopefully they travel well. So, having a mudra. There's also things that you can do with like pressing on the back here of the neck and using your eyes to look to the right, come back to center, look
Yes.
to the left, and you'll
Yes.
yawn as your nervous system begins to reset,
Yes.
tapping,
Exactly.
humming, right?
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
bumblebee, right?
Hmm.
That's very, very
Hmm.
relaxing, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just fun,
Those are
Hmm.
things that definitely help.
raspberries. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, going easier on ourselves, paying attention, not in like a hyper fixated way, right? We don't want to drive ourselves crazy with, oh, I'm doing this and oh, I'm doing that. And that'll dysregulate you.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
just noticing what some of our tendencies are. And is that helping to regulate or is that causing more overload? and yeah, it isn't it isn't something that needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that needs to be
Right.
nourished,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know?
Exactly. None of us are broken. We all, I think, at one point in our lives have probably used that term. At least I know I've been surrounded by a lot of people who've used that, including myself in the past, about being broken. It's like, no, none of us are actually broken. It's just
Mm-hmm.
our bodies attempting to self-regulate. And so are we going to support that, or are you going to stop it? Are you going to stop that self-regulation? Our
Yeah.
bodies naturally know what to do, and it's always seeking homeostasis,
Mhm.
Yeah.
balance.
Mhm. Yeah. No, we're definitely not broken. We're very well attuned, but we live inside of a broken system. That's the
Mm-hmm.
difference, folks. Stay
And
tuned for the next episode of Unfiltered,
yeah,
where we really dive down that rabbit hole someday.
right, because we have choices.
We
Mhm.
have choices. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I know we need to wrap this up, but you made the comment about nourishment, and then, earlier the joke about it wasn't I was dysregulated. I just had to divorce my husband and quit my job and everything. Um, but looking at it from not what are things I need to get rid of, right? Because we have this fixation with detoxing and cleansing, but what are things that I can add in that are nourishing?
Mhm.
So, like if you have a tendency to doom scroll, like, okay, I'm still going to look at my phone and I'm going to read a book for 5 minutes, like starting to add in little things to fill up your life. Um, and help regulate versus like I'm just going to get rid of everything because that gets really,
Yeah.
you know, again,
Well,
you're
and the
not broken.
universe, yeah, and the universe will pour us a vacuum. So when we remove something, the universe will fill it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
self-empowerment, take back
Mm-hmm.
your own power, and you can
Yep.
fill that space. So it's great to take things off our plate or remove things that might be so-called, we'll just say toxic or whatever, that
Mm-hmm.
don't serve us as well anymore, doesn't support where we really want to be and where we want to go. But then to fill it, like Nikki, to your end about, okay, instead of doom scrolling, maybe I get to still be on my phone and fill that time with like reading or maybe listening to or watching a guided meditation. So instead
Mm-hmm.
of doom scrolling about all the horrible things happening in the world, fill it with something positive,
Yep.
something nourishing, something that's going to raise your vibration as opposed to
Exactly.
lower it. And that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself
Yes.
is
Yes.
vibration, right? So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say if like whatever your jam is, think about how can this work better for me? So if
Mm-hmm.
you love listening to the news, no shade on that, but maybe just tune into one reliable source instead
Mm-hmm.
of five, or even listening or watching or reading at a different time of day because our nervous system has cycles within
Mm-hmm.
a day. So maybe nighttime reading would be softer for your system than first thing in the morning. And if you like to doom scroll, but it's a bunch of, shenanigans, maybe watching cats or butterflies. I don't know why that came to mind, but,
Oh,
you know, so what you're already doing is supporting something, but just taking it to the next level so that you're getting resourced and nourished from that. That's a
yes.
micro adjustment. Mhm. Yeah. So thank
Yes.
you
Yes.
all for listening.
Cool.
We hope
Yes.
that these are supporting you in some way. And if there's ever a topic or something you would like clarified or to go deeper on, please, just send us some feedback at
Yeah.
galacticoasis216@gmail.com.
Yep.
Thanks,
Galactic,
everybody.
galactic, galactic. Until next time, take care.
Bye.
Oh, nope, we're going to be here forever. There we go. Nope.